Hello and welcome to That's So Craven, your one-stop shop for all things Fulham. This is Dave and this is After Dark, going head-to-head tonight with the Premier League darts final, and we're going to see who wins on the ratings. Thanks to all those for tuning in live on X, YouTube and Facebook, but not Instagram, so sort it out, Jack. Come on, these poor Instagram followers are being starved of primetime entertainment, so we need to get on that. We'll be back soon, Instagram followers. Anyway, we're going to be talking about City last Sunday. We're going to talk a little bit about transfers. We're going to answer some questions actually that have been posted in our Discord group, and we're probably going to go off on tangents as well. So yeah, tune in. It's going to be a good show. Thanks to everyone joining us. Just make sure you send in your comments in the chat and we'll answer those too. So yeah, get involved. I'm joined tonight by a man who has weaker hamstrings than Reece Nelson. It's your Putney perspective. It's Skibby. How are you doing, Skibby?
I just want to, for the record, it's only one hamstring. I didn't do both like a certain Arsenal winger. But yeah, I'm feeling good. I can actually sit down and it doesn't hurt anymore. So that's good. Weird anecdote though. You don't realise how much you use your hamstring when you go for a poo. And just by sitting, it was unbelievable. And I couldn't get off the toilet. So there you go. You learn something new every day. And hopefully you don't have to go through what I did and, you know, the awkward moment of, I can't get up. I'm stuck. This is my life now. But no, here we go. I'm on the mend. I can walk now. I actually did a hike at the weekend as well. Just a 5K hike, but it held together just about. But running is still a no-go for me. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. And it's the last After Dark of the season as well.
Back at football soon, do you think?
Yeah, I'm hoping in about a couple of weeks. I'm actually going to a festival in 2 weeks, so anyone who's been to a festival knows how much of a trek it is to go from the car to the campsite to bring all of your stuff. So I've actually been banned from playing football or doing any kind of mega activity that may trigger the hamstring, which means that the missus would then have to carry all the tent, all the gear from the car to the campsite, and then I just have to, you know, crack open a beer and make sure she does it right. So, you know, that's me. But yeah, football in the next sort of couple of weeks, I think.
Good man. And I'm also joined by the man who has the best and the worst Donald Trump impression on That So Craven. It's the international man of mystery. It's Mark. How you doing, Mark?
Hey Dave, thanks for that. I'm now nervous to do any other impression ever again because I've been hounded relentlessly about this. I thought you were going to go with the After Mark opener, and then I had something prepared for that. You know, I could have referenced my dog, and that's going to be After Bark. Went for a walk, that's After Park. But no, you had to reference my failings, and that's deeply embarrassing for me. So now I'm going to have to redeem myself in this episode.
Well, I did say you were the best and the worst at the Donald Trump impression. So, you know, don't focus on the negative.
Far. To be fair, I've been waiting because it's basically all Mary talks about is how great her Donald Trump impression is. So one day we'll get it.
Oh, that'll be good. Yeah, let's line that one up. The start of the season, maybe the start of the season, we'll get Mary doing Donald Trump just to kickstart the show. That'd be a great way to get the followers tuning in. Right, should we talk about Manchester City? We missed the pod on Monday, so those looking for the post-game review, we are sorry. We missed the pod, and there's no real reason for that, or at least I don't know what the reason was. We just missed it, and yeah, we forgot about it. I think I don't know what happened.
I said something like they were watching a documentary from about a musician who, even funnier, just because they're all Australian. Was actually a member from, or the Scottish/Australian member of Men at Work. So who did Down Under. So they watched a documentary on him. So there you go. Priorities, I suppose.
Yeah, so there you go, gentlemen. We're getting that's how we roll now. We watch documentaries instead of posting the pod. No, really joking. We're gonna keep things going through the summer. As you know, it's not just After Dark tonight. We're gonna have some good shows coming up. We got the I should be doing this at the end, really. I'm going to do it at the end. I'll come back to that. We'll part that for now. Let's talk about City. So, Fulham's final league game of the season, a nice, easy fixture against Manchester City. And It was a nice day out. I mean, I had a pretty good day out on Sunday. You know, you always got to celebrate the last game of the season, especially when there's nothing really on the line. I mean, worst case was we could finish 12th, and I was kind of thinking that was quite a possibility with the form Palace are in. Even going to Liverpool, you just kind of fancy them to win at the moment. Fortunately, we didn't finish 12th, but we did slip a place and finish 11th. Bit disappointing. Mark, I know you were around the world somewhere in some part of the world as usual, and I think you were around the world for on Sunday. Can you give us a bit of insight where you were, and I presume you watched the game?
Absolutely. I watched part of the game. I was on a flight at that time. I was in Mexico, most regrettably with my bestie, who's a Palace fan. So he was in a fantastic mood when they landed, right? Because he just figured out that they beat the guys that we couldn't. So that was fun hearing about that for hours on end. But, you know, going back to Man City, it's probably the only game that I'm not psyched for. People who know me will tell you that I'm delusional about Fulham. Like anyone, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea. I might not say we can win, but I think we'll give them a game. Maybe we'll draw. And Man City, I'm just like, it's fine. Take my ticket. Anyone who wants my ticket, you can go watch it. So I'm just so deflated when it comes to Man City. Now I know they're a different beast this season, but it was the same result. So I don't know what I'm sure we'll dive into deeper detail, but I'm just not. I was hoping Ortega would be in goal, but he wasn't, and it's Ederson, and I just think Ederson's an outstanding keeper. You guys feel free to disagree with me, but I rate him. He's probably up there. So of course we don't get their weaker keeper. We get the proper one, but that's why we're falling.
And that was the problem, really, Skibby, wasn't it? Because City had, they needed to win really to secure their Champions League place. It wasn't like a dead rubber for them, and they'd won the league 3 games ago, as it usually is. So, yeah, it was a game they had something to play for. We were just purely playing for positions. And, the team lineups, obviously City went strong. We made some changes. What did you make of those, Skibby?
It was changes for the sake of changes. It was very Marco Silva. Cuenca coming in was a big surprise. I think whenever we did the preview, we were kind of expecting the team to be exactly how we normally see, with Iwobi on the left and potentially Andreas coming in at the 10 because he's just a bit more of that defensive 10, a bit more of a workhorse. But the real question marks was around the right wing. Would it be Cess? Would it be Adama? Will it be Wilson? And he really rang in the changes. Cuenca came in with Iwobi dropped as well, so both the Nigerian lads got dropped out. With Adama going over to the left and Wilson starting on the right. It just got a bit interesting. And then Tom Cairney obviously coming in. Interesting. Felt like a bit of a send-off, but it was just very uncharacteristic from Silva. But then obviously Man City, like you say, they needed a point to get Champions League. It's not Pep Guardiola's way of just coming and playing for a draw. And I like to think that that's also not Marco's way either. So it was quite nice as the game went on, and we'll go into, we actually didn't just sit back and, do a Southampton and play for the 0-0 and really frustrate them and get branded anti-football. I'd rather lose than be branded anti-football. So, it was kind of nice in that way. But, yeah, I mean, it was an interesting lineup, and I think it actually surprised me as the game went on just how kind of strong Fulham became, actually really taking some chances and getting these chances, and instrumental from some good defending, fundamentally, but also, yeah, TC turned it on a little bit. I think it was a game and a midfield that kind of matched him a little bit, where he wasn't over hurried, he wasn't over, the physical of that midfield didn't overpower him. It was just kind of going at his pace, and he was quite okay with that. And he actually had quite a decent game, so it was quite nice. Which given the rumours, it was quite nice to see the last game of the season. But yeah, I think Marco knew that there wasn't much to play for. This was getting some minutes in some legs that had potentially not played as much this season, and yeah, very nice.
Yeah, it was. So, Mark, as Gibby said, Kearney came in. Could be a sign that that might be his last game for Fulham, but really nice to see him on the team sheet. Just love watching Tom Kearney. Got a bit excited when I saw him on the team sheet because, he never lets you down, does he? And then Cuenca as well, to see him in place of Bassi was a big surprise. But because there was no kind of jeopardy really in our game, I think it was nice to see him. And he's another player that hasn't let us down this season. And I think everyone wants to kind of see him a bit more, but just kind of not at the expense of Bassi. It's a really tricky one. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, a great point. I think Marco said at the beginning of the season, Cuenca is a signing that's going to surprise everyone, right? And we haven't seen as much of him as we would have liked. If I'm not mistaken, he's also meant to be a ball-playing center back, and we got him for a really good price. I hope we see a lot more of him. I don't know how we're going to do that, given that, Robinson was stealing all of the spotlight the first half of the season. Then he got injured and sort of tailed off a little bit. But Bassi has been so solid for us. So unless we sort of incorporate a weird new system where we can play Cuenca and Bassi, which seems rather unlikely, I think Marco really likes the idea of Anderson being the distributor and Bassi sort of being the enforcer next to him. That's going to be pretty tricky, but probably one of the few spots alongside the right back position where we had two starters, and I was really pleased with that. TC as well, club legend, 10 years, always been our captain. Turned up for a couple of massive moments. Who can forget Wembley? But also the Brentford equalizer, right? I think that really G'd the boys up. So, maybe that's something we can touch on a little bit later as well, whether we think he's going to stay with us or whether he's going to go to Wrexham. He's sort of voiced, at least publicly, that he's indicated he would like to stay. Marco seems to be doing that as well. I know there's some conversations going on there. But yeah, I think you guys are right in that it was unusual for Marco. Usually we can name 10 out of the 11 with supreme confidence. The only difference being, either Muniz or Raul up front. But this time it was mixed up, wasn't it?
It was. Should we talk about Kearney now? So obviously, really strange situation. It's he's not signed a contract. There's talks going on. I think both Kearney and Silver have kind of mentioned that there's talks going on. But I guess just the way it all played out, it did feel like they were kind of giving him a bit of a send-off just in case those talks don't develop. And it does make you think that perhaps he will be moving on this summer. That's how I kind of took it. I think he's been an absolute legend for Fulham. I don't think anyone's going to question that. He's been absolutely brilliant for us, and he's played in a really difficult period for us, and he's come out the other side with that and been, one of our best players. So, total respect for the guy. But, he's played less and less this year, and there's an argument to say it's maybe it's the right time. Skibby, what's your take on it?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because, like you say, he's been an absolute legend. He's part of the furniture now at Fulham and has just been there for so long that it's just almost comforting to see that familiar face in the squad and just in those sort of full access / training videos. It's just nice to see TC come up and give his little ad libs. It's just quite homey about it. But like you say, I think the playing time is going to be really limited. We're trying to go to a level which is higher than mid-table Premier League, and I just think that given his age and his legs at the moment, that's just not anything that he can offer. I mean, he had a great game, don't get me wrong, but I just feel like consistently in the league, I just don't feel like he would offer too much if he was to stay. But I mean, credit where credit's due. I think I might be wrong here, but in 2018 Premier League season, he was missing for like a year. He went missing for like 18 months. He had this really bad knee injury. And I thought then that was curtains. I didn't think we'd see him again. And I thought, after taking a whole season out injured, he's not going to be in Marco's plans. But interesting enough, Marco really took to him and saw the quality in him, and they got him back to playing his best, and that promotion season was unbelievable. And then he has been instrumental when we got back to the Premier League as well. The first season under Marco, he was quite instrumental, and that was awesome to see. So I was glad to be proven wrong. I was glad that he was able to sort of prolong his career by an extra sort of 3 seasons with us. But I think personally, I saw this weekend as a goodbye. I think they started him. They gave him the standing O when he came off. There looked to be sort of tears in the eyes of TC. Whether you read into that as much as you can, it's whether it's his last time or whether he thinks, as it stands, it could well be my last time. There's nothing definite right now, but you kind of witnessed more emotion after the game as well. That from what I saw, so it did feel like a little bit of a goodbye rather than a we'll see, but also it was very poetic. I think that he came off the pitch for Josh King, and that felt like even more of a passing the baton, as it were, like passing the torch of 34-year-old Kearney, been an absolute club legend, bringing on Josh King, who could potentially follow in his footsteps and hopefully sticks around for 10 years and has less injuries, but just as much impact as TC had. So I think there's an element of TC's got it in him that he can play on. And I just feel like Fulham could hold him back a little bit because he's now, 34, hasn't got many years left. And I think if there is a club who is willing to idolise him and get the best out of him in the Championship, Wrexham, then I wouldn't want to hold him back. I would love to see TC play more, and I think I'd actually follow Wrexham a little bit just by seeing how good he's doing. I think it's just a point now where he's not going to play as much as he'd like. Therefore, in these sort of last few twilight years, as it were, it's probably worth moving on. But personally, I can't see TC and Reedy moving on. So it's only one or the other. If Reedy really wants to go, then I think TC stays.
Interesting. And what about you, Mark? I mean, Steve's asked a question in the group, should we have a testimonial? I remember when I saw the Supporters Trust minutes come out, the club didn't really commit on that.
No.
They seemed a bit woolly around that whole issue. And then when I've seen the club do this whole, post your video for TC campaign that they've been doing recently, which I suspect will be coming out soon. Again, that's another kind of sign that perhaps this is the last year. But what's your take? Expand upon what you were saying earlier for us.
Yeah, sure, no problem. I mean, yeah, absolutely. But they both deserve a testimonial, and TC has been such a legend for us. I kind of agree with what Skibby's saying. Knowing how we do business, I actually wouldn't be surprised if we don't seem particularly sentimental, but we also do seem to love kicking the can down the road. So, it feels like it could go either way. He is also sort of like a leadership figure in the dressing room, right? Maybe perhaps not as loud as I would like, but he brings a calm and a calming presence to the lads. So, there's that argument there. And I think Ream did that as well. But at the same time, yeah, like if there is an opportunity for him to go to Wrexham and sort of be one of the star players there, I think he would go with a lot of Fulham fans' blessings, right? Like he's done so much for us. If the money makes sense, if the opportunity makes sense, if it helps with his media career going onwards from there, if it opens those doors, then, we wish him well. Now, the only thing that I do sort of caveat that with, that I think it was one of the other players in the Fulham team that said this, is that apparently the guy practically lives at Selfridges. So I don't know how his wife and kids are going to take moving from, the glory of London to somewhere in Wales. But, that's a conversation I assume they'll have in private.
That's a good point, actually. I suspect they'll probably spend a lot of time in Liverpool and surrounding areas. So let's go back to City then. First 20 minutes, we barely had the ball. it was pretty much the Man City show, without like creating lots of chances. But I felt that we were a little bit soft. We could have got stuck in a little bit more and tried to turn it over a bit more. I think we gave them a little bit too much respect. And then the game kind of came alive, and that's when it started to open up. That's when they got their first goal in the game through Gundogan. And I got to be honest, I don't think there's been many better goals at Craven Cottage this season. I thought it was an unbelievable finish. I didn't know he had that in his locker, Gundogan, to score a goal like that. It was just absolutely sensational. And the game, as I said, the game had just started to open up and we'd started getting into it a little bit. And then that happened. There was a bit of a sucker punch. Skivvy, your thoughts on the goal?
Unbelievable goal. I think people are going to say, oh, keeper was out of his goal and it was a tap in and, he didn't need to do that. But the way that he moves his body and just adjusts to even get it on target is phenomenal. But I just think great save from Leno. It was one of those things where they were knocking on the door, let's be honest. We didn't really get a touch of the ball. We couldn't really get into our flow. And every time we got the ball and tried to play out, they were quickly closing us down in a proper Pep Guardiola way, which fair enough. I get that. And I think it just got to a point where, unfortunately, a lot of success was coming down the wings, which you can't say very often coming to Craven Cottage, that our fullbacks were getting rinsed. So Robinson, I believe it was sort of Silva and Nunez down that side, who was playing at right back. But I think it was him that managed to sort of burst into the box, try to lift it over Leno. Great save, made himself big, came off his shoulder, and fair enough. Gundogan just adjusts his body perfectly, and that's why he's worth millions, 300 grand a week or whatever it was. They signed him on a free from Barcelona. It's one of those things, but I think it was one of those points where we were defending really valiantly, we were defending really well, but you just felt like it was coming. You just felt like something was going to snap. And do you know what? It was quite interesting in a way that I was then expecting, floodgates. But actually the goal spurred us on a bit more, and we were starting to open them up a little bit. And it was really nice that I don't think even before the goal that we were really trying to sit back and do nothing. We were really trying to stick to our game plan, and little things weren't working with Adama Traore trying to sort of get down the line, and but he just couldn't beat his man. I think there was a moment where Tete tried to get beyond Guardiola on the left back, and even he was outpaced, and it felt like we were just that shy of maybe fatigue, but just that shy inch of quality just to really sort of hurt this Man City side. And I did have to fear the worst as soon as that goal went in. But yeah, we spurred, I think, and it started to really open up for us, especially in the middle of the park. I think that's when we started to see the best of TC. We started to see the best of Pereira. And it still pains me to this moment, but just try and get Adama in behind. I don't know why he just doesn't make those runs for us at the moment, but there was a couple of times where you just felt that slide is on. But like I said, it was positive after that goal, so I wasn't too disappointed, if I'm honest.
No, there was 3 kind of big chances, I think, for Fulham. 2 fell to Wilson and 1 fell to TC. So the first one, we managed to find Wilson in a bit of space on the right, and he kind of cut in, and his shot was kind of the nice height for Edison, and he made the save. And this is the opportunity where it fell to TC. He tried to volley it, and it kind of got deflected. Andreas collected it, plays it back to TC. And Mark, how's that gone wide? I mean, it looked like it was flying in that corner. It looked like the goal he scored against Spurs at White Hart Lane, or the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, whatever they call it now, earlier in the season. And that wasn't in the script for it to go wide. That was supposed to go in, right?
I know, that would have made it like perfect, wouldn't it? It'd be like the fairy tale equalizer, and then we go on to win it and then laugh at Brentford as we finish over them, because then they would miraculously lose their game and it would be great. But yeah, it's for someone of TC's quality and composure, and he had the time there. We know he has the ability, and he had enough time to sort of line it up. But yeah, it's really surprising because the keeper was well and truly beat. If TC places it where he would place it, I would argue at least 8 out of 10 times, if not 9 out of 10 times. But maybe he felt rushed. Maybe the pressure was on. I don't know. The pressure gets to them too as well. They're human beings as well as professional football players. But yeah, that was gutting, especially because like Andreas was actually I actually, despite Skippy's belief, I do think he's a good player, and I just don't want to rag on Andreas the whole time. But I think that was quite unselfish and clever for Andreas to collect it and then sort of almost, I don't know whether he dummied it or not, but to release TC and give him another shot where he knew TC had the better angle. So yeah, small props to Andreas from me.
As much as I love Andreas, I think he took a bad touch.
don't deny me now. I just gave him.
I love. Do you know what? I would love to say that Andreas took it down perfectly, looked up, saw TC, but he almost looked like he tried to take a touch, ready to pull the trigger, and it just got away from him. So he like stretches to sort of play TC in. But yeah, I mean, all big love for Andreas.
Well, Andreas was part of the next chance as well when Wilson cut in from the left. And I think that was the best save from Ederson. He got down really low, really quickly to palm it wide. And then Andreas followed it up and hit the side netting. I'm not sure Wilson could have done a lot more. Could have Andreas, Skibby? I'm not sure. It was quite a tight angle and it all happened quite fast.
Weak side. I think everyone's rushing out to you at a tight angle. I think it would be very harsh to say he hasn't hit the target there, but I mean, golden chance, fantastic save from Ederson. Like that was one of those which you see nestled in the bottom corner.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just crazy. I don't think he could have done much better.
I don't know if he intended it as well, but the way he saves it is also impressive because it's sort of spooling away from him behind him, right? So it makes it even harder for someone to come in for a tap in. And I think in yet another rare moment of agreement, I think AP did have a difficult angle, and I think the defender was pretty close, if not having it covered perfectly. So yeah, it seemed like a tough one to collect.
But just before we go on any further, I've noticed Skibby's got the Coronas out. I've got the old Beer Moretti's out. Have you got a teacup full of beer again? Or what's going on in your household?
I feel like I just get abused every time I come on this show. It's very hurtful. But no, this time I've played it safe. Oh. I've got the Berliner Pilsner. It's pretty decent, actually. Yeah, solid 7 out of 10 if I was to rate it. Not too expensive. So
we should do that for the end of season. We should have like a random cup.
Yeah.
Who can drink out of the weirdest thing? I mean, for those who are watching at home, I've got a Toy Story alien popcorn holder.
Oh.
So I could weirdly looks like I'm
That's
Frenching
good.
it, but I could drink out of that.
It's a strong start.
Yeah, I've got a dog bowl lying around here, so that might work, Okay, back to the game. So second half as well, we were still in this. We were having chances. I think the best one that I recall was when we actually got Wilson in behind down the right-hand side, and he got all the way into the box, crossed it in, bit of a crap clearance, and then Mr. Andreas, I don't think we'll be as kind to him on this one.
Awful.
It was a pretty dreadful finish. I know, albeit on his left foot, but he kind of scuffed it, missed the target. And, I think for me, that said, Andreas has scored 1 goal at Craven Cottage in the last 3 seasons. And, that shows you why I think he's just not got the composure in those moments. Is that unfair, Skibby? Because I'll give you a chance to defend him.
No, I think that's pretty bang on. It was a woeful chance. When I was watching it, I just sort of went, oh, wow, that's just put your foot through it. I mean, as a professional footballer as well, it didn't sit up badly for him either. It was kind of there to be hit. But yeah, there was no defending that one, unfortunately. Everyone has bad days, and that was one of his bad moments, unfortunately.
Yeah. All right, we'll move on from that one then. And then
But
penalty.
can I just talk about
Oh, go
one
on.
thing that he did well, which is the
Yes.
through ball. Finally, someone did a through ball to Adama Traore,
Mm.
and he was away, and you were like, "This is going to be majestic," and it was just terrible touch, terrible. Basically, Adama in a nutshell, really, wasn't it? It just couldn't get it under control. Before you know it, keeper had it in his arms, and he just sort of turns around and goes, "Oh, expletives." But I don't know
Yeah.
why we just didn't do that more.
Well, look, plenty more of Adama next season to get
Absolutely.
stuck into. Mark, their penalty. I mean, difficult to argue, really. I think another pretty good turn by Gundogan. He kind of rolled back the years on Sunday. It was amazing, and I think it's a bit clumsy, right, from Sasa, a bit uncharacteristic.
Yeah, clumsy, but it's hard to argue with it. It's pretty legitimate. It kind of reminds me of the one De Bruyne. I feel like he does dangle his leg a little bit
Jedi,
just to feel
wasn't
the
it?
contact and then fall over. But you know, as everyone says, it always looks worse in slow motion. And in slow motion, yes, he clearly catches him. Probably with not enough force to send him flying like that, but that's the game we play these days. And yeah, I don't know what more there is to say about it. It's a sad reality of the modern game, but it's a legitimate penalty, and it sucks.
Yeah, it does.
It was just frustrating to see real time as well. It was like one of those tackles you see lazy, fatigued, maybe 90th minute, maybe 85th minute or something like that, where you've been chasing the game for so long and you're just knackered. But to do that at like the 70th minute, I think there was even after like there was a bit of a VAR check. So it might have even been like 69th minute. That was dreadful. Like I just didn't see what Sasha was doing at that point. He
got
doesn't
turned.
even like it doesn't even turn him like, you know, when you say, oh, he got turned, I'm thinking like Lamine Yamal or
yeah.
Messi, like, oh yeah, fair enough, he's absolutely sold him there. He just turned around a little bit and he just kicks him on the leg, and you're like, what are you doing? Just stand him up. But yeah, it was disappointing because, you know, at that point we were really chasing the game, and I mean, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember any real clear-cut chances thinking, oh, we're hanging on here. I thought we were truly in a game. Could have really equalised at this point, and it just seemed a bit, you know, we brought on Iwobi, we brought on Smith Rowe, I believe at this point. So it was kind of like the game was there for us to really take it to Man City and rescue a draw here, and that would have been quite a nice day, but yeah, it just seems really silly to do for me.
Yeah, I agree. Well, yeah, we had a couple more chances towards the end of the game. I think Sasha Berger had one when he came on, a rare shot at goal, which was another pretty good save by Edison, to be fair.
Doesn't catch it, does he?
Yeah, and then there's that whole penalty incident. I mean, how's that not a penalty? I don't understand that. I mean, they said his arm. What did they say? The VAR say about
natural position.
That one? Yeah, natural position above his head. I mean, it makes no sense. I just think they got really confused as to what the rule is. I don't even really know what the rule is anymore.
No one knows.
For me, that should have been a penalty. And I know it's only a consolation goal, but it would have been nice to have had a little goal to celebrate on the day, you know. Mark, a bit disappointed in that, were you? Or did you think that they got it right?
100%. No, VAR bottled it. The ref bottled it. Everyone bottled it. I don't know why. Yes, it's a consolation, right? It has no material impact, really, on the outcome of the game. But it's also about the consistency and the fairness of the rules. And can you imagine if it was a so-called big club that this happened to, right? And I don't know, an Arsenal or Chelsea or something, people would be raving about it for probably weeks on end. But because it's Fulham and we have quite a nice fan base, and we're just like, oh, bother, that's rather unfortunate. Like, it just gets brushed over. And I think that's really annoying because I would have liked to see it. I would have liked to see Jimenez, you know, add one more to the tally. Why not, right? Like, at least we get a little bit of entertainment out of the game. So I think, you know, this is the issue that whether you're pro VAR or anti VAR, it just hasn't been implemented well. And how that is missed is utterly beyond me. that is embarrassing for all parties involved. Oh, sorry, I got more emotional than I thought I would about that. But yeah, it's,
no, I was feeling it. I mean,
the fairness of the rules. It's important.
Well, especially
He's a
on the last
stickler for the
game
rules,
of the
Mark.
season as well, because City are still chasing Champions League, right? So, for hypothetical sake, it's still 1-0 at that moment, and they need to win to make Champions League, and because that's not given, Villa or Newcastle or somebody miss out on Champions League just because that wasn't given. Suddenly, you've got a bit more of a bit of a stink coming to the FA's way. But yeah, to me, I see it and I don't. Right? I mean, you're defending, you're stretching, it's a natural movement. Your arm is out for balance. You can't defend like a pencil. Or a penguin rather. Anything with arms that go down. I'm not saying pencils have arms, but penguins do. But
thanks for clarifying.
You're welcome.
Wise words.
The more you know.
Yeah, let's cut that up. Cut that
Join
up,
us
please.
again. Join us again for Skibby's knowledge.
We should have
Anyway,
a bloopers end of year show. That would be brilliant for that, wouldn't it? Yeah.
But I can't remember who it is who's flicked it towards goal. Was it Tete? I think it was someone like that. They've got a flick on it anyway, and he's gone to step in and the arm's gone up. So I can see what he means by natural position. It's not natural at all, but it's natural movement because you're trying to keep balance. But the amount of times you've seen that 9 times out of 10 in the Premier League, that's given.
Yeah,
100%. So I don't know why it wasn't given. So it comes down to this whole consistency thing. If you're saying that that's a natural position, then you can't give that ever. But you watch, I reckon, in the Women's Euros in the summer, or even the Club World Cup, what's on, you'll see something very similar, and there'll be a referee from Spain, and he'll go, "Oh yeah, every day of the week that's a penalty."
Yeah.
How's that consistent?
Yeah. This is the problem, I guess, when these rules are still subjective, whether you're the referee on the pitch or the VAR guys. But yeah, it was disappointing. And it's happened twice, 2 home games in a row. We should have had 2 more consolation goals this season. Happened against Everton too. But, enough of that. I think on the day, maybe City edged it and showed they were clinical in key moments, and Edison had a really good game. He was one of a few keepers this year that had good games against us. Pickford stands out, but Sells as well. I know we beat Forest, but it should have been by a lot more if it wasn't for Sells. There was some good performances against us this year from opposition keepers. And yeah, let's see where that leaves us. I mean, it's left us 11th in the league. That's where we finished, but we've got our record points total of 54 points. We beat our 53-point season. So that's good. We got more wins than losses.
Where we finished 7th, by the way.
Yeah, we finished 7th that time. Yeah.
How did we finish 7th with 53 points?
I think that's the problem. Is that the bottom 3 this year were pretty crap. So I mean,
awful, yeah.
They only got 25 points. I think Leicester came 3rd bottom. They got 25 points.
Not even that. I think it's also the Man United and Spurs fall off as well. That was giving out points to everyone. So you had 6 teams giving points to everyone.
Yeah.
In ways that they never did before.
It's annoying. Brentford finished above us, but we beat them twice. I think I'd rather beat them twice than finish above them.
Absolutely.
Probably.
Mm-hmm.
Look, we got Mary Southgate Townsend's joined us in the chat all the way from sunny Spain. Got off the sun lounger, put down the sangria, and jumped on YouTube to post on That's a Craven. What a great commitment. So hello, Mary, and we'll see you back soon. Have a great holiday. Anyway,
about 9:40 p.m. there. It's just about dinner time, isn't it?
I thought Mary'd be doing karaoke by now. But she'd have been singing. Oh, okay. Yeah, very nice of her to jump on. She's still got a Corona in hand. There you go, Skibby.
Let's go, Team Corona.
So, yeah, bit disappointed that we dropped out the top 10 because we were in the top 10 pretty much the whole season, weren't we? We dropped out on the last day, so that's a bit annoying. But look, we are where we are. Palace didn't catch us. Those kind of teams that finished above us by marginal points difference, they haven't got, much more out of it, really. They haven't got Europe or anything like that. So I think it just shows, I think in a way it's good because it maybe gives the board a bit of kind of perspective that we still need to kind of push to kind of compete. And if we want to finish in the top 10, we need to kind of go a bit further again. So maybe that's a positive to take from it. I know you'll be happy, Mark, because Forest dropped out of the Champions League spots. So I know you're pretty bitter with your views on Forest, right?
Oh, 100%. Total anti-football. They watch the game, they don't play it.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that's the answer to Mary's question then of who are you most surprised at seeing in the top half of the table?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
For me, it was Forest. Weren't they
think it's
17th
Forest.
2 seasons in a row? Or I don't know, 16th and 17th, right? And they sort of were just hanging on. They had quality. I don't want to be 100% negative. I think Morgan Gibbs-White has always been quality for them. And probably a few other players, Murillo as well, but he's more recent. And then this season, it just seemed to have, one, all clicked, but two, I don't know. I just think they had a game plan that worked. They had an identity that was strong and a good manager. And I really think that the majority of teams, the first time playing them, underestimated them. That's the only way I can put it. But anyway, that's my answer for the most surprising top half.
I think I agree with that, yeah.
Yeah. It's just, as I said, a bit frustrating that we dropped out at the end, but it's not the end of the world. We're still mid-table, and we go on. So into pre-season, seems to be there's more rumours than normal. Am I making that up? It feels like there's more. I think Fulham fan news in our Discord group seems to be popping up every day with little nuggets about what he's heard from different journos. And anyone's following that wants to get involved and get those little nuggets that aren't always on X, then make sure you sign up to our Discord group. All the links are in our socials and in the pod description. But it feels like there's a little bit going on. I mean, it's quite a strong link to Callum Willock the other day, but although it seems to have already gone a bit quiet.
Joe Willock.
Stevie, what's your thoughts so far on what you're hearing? Are you happy with some of these rumours? Do you think it's just agent bullshit from the start of the window?
I think it's agent stuff. I think it's more just trying to find a home early. But I also think that there's the Club World Cup is also taking its toll, a little bit. So obviously that kicks off I think it kicks off in June, right? I want to say it kicks off in June. So a lot of teams are saying we want to get people in because they're going to treat it as their pre-season. So they want people in for the Club World Cup, and that's not just the English teams. I'm seeing that I think the Brazilian teams that are linked to Andreas, for example, they want to get, if they are going to get him in, they want to bring him in before the Club World Cup. So there's sort of movement like that, I think. Because people were knowing earlier that if they're not going to be part of that squad, then they're off ski, right? So I think there's a lot of that going on. But I think with Fulham, there's a lot more to know in terms of there's going to be a bit of a high turnover of players. So I think we talked about TC, we talked about Reedy. There's also the element of Willian's probably not going to sign on again. We hope. We've got the loanee of Reece Nelson, who's going to fill that gap. There's been talks about Robinson. Hopefully, his recent news of having surgery puts people off. But that's another gap you've got to fill. Cuenca, there's lots of talk about centre back. So is Cuenca not happy with his game time? Because we've seen him and we mentioned him in the Man City game, and we actually mentioned him quite a lot this season. That he comes in against Man City, he comes in against Liverpool, I believe, and actually had a really good game. So perhaps he's saying that he needs to get more minutes. Therefore, we need to find a centre back. There's just so much potential overhaul that we actually need to we can't wait until the end of August, because we know how impactful it is that Berger missed pre-season I think Smith Rowe was coming off the back of a really bad injuries, therefore he wasn't really up to speed when he first came in. So we had a lot of gaps to fill, but without getting them up to speed, we lose potentially 4 or 5 games this season. And then suddenly you're chasing the pack and it becomes much more difficult. So I think, yeah, we're going to hopefully, and I firmly believe this because otherwise Silva would have taken Saudi if he wasn't made promises of stick with us, kid, because we're going to go far and we're going to back you. And by the sounds of things, he has quite a say in what's happening transfer-wise.
No, for sure. Steve Reynolds posted a bit of a question for us here, which I think is quite good, which is he's saying we're not going to get a big budget this season. That doesn't entirely surprise me. What are the 3 positions that we need to improve? Mark, do you want to take that on first?
I'll give it a go, but I mean, for us, I think it's more like 5 or 6, to be blunt. We are good, but we're so inconsistent. But great question, by the way. I'm less worried about Cuenca. I know he deserves way more game time, but I would hope that he'd stick around and try and fight for his place another season. I am more worried about Diop. I think Cuenca can at least be somewhat placated by saying, look, Bassi is playing so well. But Diop must be really frustrated that Anderson, has a good game, then has a stinker, then has a good game, and then he's just quite inconsistent. And he hasn't really, him and ESR really haven't lived up to their potential. That isn't to say I think we got a bad deal. I think we paid a lot, but when you pay a lot, you expect a lot. I don't think we overpaid if they perform to their potential, but they haven't done that yet. And in a weird way, that really excites me with ESR because 6 goals and 3 assists from someone who is playing half the time, not at their potential, is pretty awesome. If you can imagine what they're going to be like when they are fully motivated, fully fit and firing. But to address the question at hand, if Diop goes, a real rock of a center back, a no nonsense, we can give the distribution to Cuenca, right? But a no nonsense Murillo or Milenkovic, I think is the other one, or whoever else, right? Someone that can replace the leader that we need Joa to be as well. I want an 8 that can attack but also defend, a really hardworking box to box like Douglas Luiz type guy that's really solid and can string stuff together. Probably that I'd like to spend the most money on. And the last, which I believe Dave will agree with me, is a direct, tricky winger who can sub in as a third striker. I don't think we need a main striker. I would like one, but given that we've extended Raul and Muniz will also be contending to start, it really doesn't make sense to get a third pure traditional number 9. So I'd go with winger / striker, a really high quality 8, and a traditional no nonsense center back who hopefully is amazing in the air, so he can provide defense for corners against us and a threat for corners in our favor.
Yeah, good. I mean, if you look, I'm hoping we managed to keep Tete in, and of course, I mean, I just don't think we could replace Tete. We'd have to spend so much money to bring in a player of his quality, and we're just not going to do that. But assuming that he does, and we can keep Diop and Cuenca, in our team, then I'm quite happy just to kind of keep the same defense and just work on it. But maybe as the season goes on, give those guys that deserve it more of an opportunity. My 3, I agree with you on up front. We saw how little game time Vinny had this season. It doesn't really make sense to bring in another striker when we've got 2 and we only play 1. But if we could have a winger that's a goal threat and can also play up front, then I think we strengthen the wing, of course, but also have the ability to bring him in up front if we've got injuries to Muniz or Raul, like we have had this season. So I fully agree with you on that. And I fully agree with you on the number 8. I mean, to be honest, I've been saying that all season that we've needed a number 8. I feel like it was a gap. And I felt that the drop off from Lukic and Berger to Kearney and Reed at times this year has been quite significant. And that's not a criticism on Kearney's kind of talent. It's more his just fitness and his legs. So I really think we need someone in there that can play 8, and also prefer Lukic as a 6, so he can compete with Berger for that role and have an 8 in there. And as you said, the profile of Douglas Luiz would be great. Someone that can take set pieces and is box to box and creative and gets a few goals. That's what we need. So I'm fully in agreement there. My other one is goalkeeper. I just think that that's the one position where we've got no depth. And I think that if Leno ever got injured, we'd be in big trouble. I've not seen enough of Bender to suggest that he's kind of Premier League quality, and that's a huge risk. I think the club have taken a huge risk, have been taking a huge risk, and I'd really like to see that addressed. I also think Leno needs to be challenged a bit to get the best out of him. I don't think it's been his best season. I think that he has had an issue with things like shots outside the box and, a few mistakes here or there. And I just think if he had someone challenging him more for his position, perhaps we'd get a better player. So those would be my 3. Skibby, yourself? I know you've been left to last. Not easy to be left to last on this question, but any thoughts?
Yeah. I think I agree with you on the centre mid. I think Gustavo Harmer is the guy that I want. He is a workhorse. He knows where the goal is. And given Sheffield United have not been promoted, then I think we can do a deal. I think he would be fantastic next to Berger or Lukic. I think he would be just that kind of number 8 spark that we'd be missing. I think goalkeeper, like you say, I don't think we have to spend big on that though. I think even just a loan, just for a, I'm going to sort of bring in like a kind of like an oldish Premier League player who doesn't mind being the number 2. Like, my head goes to like Asmir Begovic back in the day. He was kind of like, he was good for Bournemouth, but you just turn up as and when. I think that kind of player would be really good, but very important, like you say, because I don't think Bender is the guy. And I think winger, we just need that. We just need some goals from the wings. And I'm gonna throw out a name which I know that you guys absolutely hate, but I just think that he would fit in so well in the way that we play, and that's Raheem Sterling. I know he's going to be too expensive. I know it's unrealistic, but I just feel that kind of player who's only just turned 30. So bear in mind that nutritionist, he's been at Man City most of his career. He's then gone to Chelsea. Like, the sports nutrition at this level now means that a 30-year-old player is not finished. And I think what you see right now at Arsenal is someone who is just low on confidence and just isn't the star, treated as the star, right? And I think if he came to Fulham and was treated and everyone thought that this is our guy, he will relish that. And I think that would really pay dividends, given that, he's 7 years younger than Willian. But similar profile to Willian, he's been there, he's done it, and he's won it. I just think he'd be a fantastic player to bring in, and if we can get the best out of him, that Marco redemption of Sterling would be fantastic. And I think he would be the sort of winger that we need, who can come up trumps with goals when we desperately need it and just make something happen.
Anything on that, Mark?
That's my 3.
I don't disagree with that, but it's just fun to play devil's advocate. Otherwise, we'd have nothing to talk about, right? I'll tell you what I do like. I do like you're right in that he has the skill. I assume he still has the pace. He has the intelligence. He would be a bit expensive, and big favorite of mine, which I know is extremely distasteful. Not everyone agrees, and definitely Marco doesn't agree. But he also knows how to, play the referee. He knows how to take a tumble in the box. And other than Harry Wilson, I don't think we really have that. Mitrovic also loved to take a tumble in the box. So that's sometimes you need that, right? You make your own luck. But I guess why I'm playing devil's advocate is I don't understand why he would want to come to us, right? I mean, unless he would see it as he does one good season at Fulham and gets a great Saudi deal or something like that. He seems, I don't know. Unless he had something to prove, like you said, he's won it all. So I agree. I think it would be a good signing. I would just question, like 100%. I question Willian's motivation the third time round. Like it didn't work, did it? It was like a band-aid on a gunshot wound. So that was silly. But yeah, I would like that. I hope he comes. I just hope he comes and he fights for us, right? For at least 1 or 2 seasons. And then we see where we're at when he's 32, 33, if that were to happen.
And I mean, he came through QPR, so he's West London boy, so who knows?
But the only thing I would say on it is I hear your points. You make some great points. I just hope in this summer we target some younger players that have more sell-on potential. And, you know, I think we've got enough Premier League experience in our squad now. I think it's time to kind of try and get some good value in the market, younger players that can come in, that are hungry, can make an impact, and then potentially we can sell them on for bigger fees in a few years' time. I think that's the model we need to adopt, really. But yeah, you make some good points. And on the point of questions, is there anything else that we've been asked today that we should pick up? Anything that jumped out from our podcast group?
One that I love is, does the club's 300% rise in pre-match early bird pints explain the drop-off in form? That was from Jim, I believe. But I love that. I just love how outraged I am at 300% increase. How can they get away with that?
Yeah. Not good. It's really weird. I remember, like, it doesn't feel that long ago since the start of the season where they gave us those tokens for cheap, for like a free drink. Can't believe how quickly the season's gone. That just not feel like 9 months ago. But yeah, maybe it has. Maybe it has. I don't know. Tricky one.
One that I threw on our chat, which I think would be fun for our listeners as well. You know, that was that table I put up, and they kind of oversimplified it. I don't know who it was, but it was basically what was it? It was a poll, right? And it was like, how satisfied are you with your team's performance this season? And like I said, it was oversimplified because there was only 4 choices. There was extremely satisfied, satisfied, dissatisfied, and extremely dissatisfied. And I think for the majority of the teams where they ended up, it kind of made sense how those different percentages were segmented, right? But what I found surprising is that, and I'll put it to you guys as well. We kind of discussed it, but maybe we can go over it in further detail. 90% of the Fulham fan base were either satisfied or extremely satisfied with our position. Now, like I said, it's oversimplified, so I wouldn't say I'd say I'm more right in the middle, right? I wouldn't say I'm satisfied, but I wouldn't say I'm upset. And I realize that part of that is also how the season went. Now, if we were crap, we were battling relegation, right? And then suddenly we won, I don't know, 10 of the last 12. Then probably I'd be ending on a high. I'd be like, yeah, we did great. We like really pulled together and the boys always believed and we came good. But I think it's because we had the opposite season. We were floating, like right at the beginning, we're floating around 6th. And then we'd sink to 8th. And then on the last day, we're around 10th, 11th. And it just feels like there was so much potential there. So, you know, I was leaning on the side of slightly dissatisfied. But why don't you guys sort of, you know, give me your take on that and to the rest of the listeners? Were you satisfied or dissatisfied or somewhere in between?
If I may. I remember going to my grandfather's birthday meal, and there is a point to this story. My cousin is a Newcastle season ticket holder, randomly lives in Sussex. Don't ask, because I don't even know. But he goes to most Newcastle games. And he was talking about, you know, Newcastle qualifying for Champions League, finishing 5th or at least in the top 5. And I was like, mate, don't be too hasty. We're only 4 points off Champions League at the moment, 4 or 5 points. So this was end of April. We were 5 points off Champions League, and I hadn't written it off yet. And I can't remember who we played that weekend, but we lost. And I think it was Bournemouth. We lost 1-0 on that Monday night. And he was the first to message me to say, still reckon you're going to get our Champions League then? You know, we've gone 8 points adrift of Champions League. And I was like, oh, well, you know, Conference League is what we really care about. And it just absolutely fell off. So in a space of a month and 5 games, I would say, 5, 6 games, we went from potentially ruffling the feathers with the big boys and finishing in the top 5 if we finish strong, to, okay, we could potentially get, Europa League, but that's a stretch, but Conference League is still a big... I mean, we are in pole position, given 3 games to go. We're still in 8th after that Brentford game. And then to not even finish in the top half of the table, it's just so deflating. And I don't think it's hard. I think it's hard to say. Like Mark said, it's easy to go off the overall feeling of the most recent form, but it's also been the whole season of what could have been. We dropped points to some absolute shambles of teams. We've witnessed the worst Man United team in decades, and I believe we lost to them both times, I want to say. We took Southampton to the Cottage, who almost beat Derby's record of the lowest points total ever, and we drew 0-0 to them. Like, this is just parts of me which is saying, yeah, we had a great season, so many highs, but boy, are those lows really low, just because it's more of a disappointment of when you compare it to being relegated to Scott Parker, but it's almost like we're just not living up to the potential that we have and what we've shown. It's just find that more disappointing. But I think when it comes to those sort of 4 categories of, are you, extremely satisfied, dissatisfied, extremely dissatisfied, it's almost like my range is in between satisfied and dissatisfied. And I think if you were to rank that number between satisfied and dissatisfied of a scale of 10, so 1 being I'm right on the borderline of being satisfied to dissatisfied, and 10 being I'm right on the borderline of being satisfied and extremely satisfied, I would easily be like a 2. I think I'm satisfied and I'm glad where we are, but at the same time, I think of what could have been had our game management been better, had we taken our chances, had we potentially let the reins go a little bit on our midfielders and let them have shots at goal. I just feel like there were so many easy fixes. Oh, don't get me started on zonal marking. If we didn't freaking zonal mark all the time and we did man marking, then we could have conceded less goals. I think that's where my gripe fits. And I know that I get a load of flack on social media and be like, I turned it off as soon as Skibby started talking because he's so negative. But it's quite realistic. I want the best for this team. I want to witness greatness, which I know that Marco, because we're not going to have Marco forever. We're not going to have this team. We're not going to have these type of players forever as well. So we need to succeed in order for them to prolong their Fulham careers, right? And I just feel like the way that we ended the season is either showing the weakness that we have in the team, the weakness that Marco has in his tactical mind, but also, by not hitting that level, Jedi, Marco, Bassi, they're all going to move on. And we're going to have to start rebuilding again. And it's just so frustrating that you can't hit these highs when we've almost got that sort of perfect formula to take us to that level. And that's probably the biggest reason why I'm on that borderline. It's more of a disappointment overall with the group that we have rather than how we've actually performed.
I mean, I feel pretty satisfied with the season. I think it's sorry to jump in like that, but I do.
90%.
I just 5 years ago we'd have loved to be in this position, so I think there's a bit of that involved. I think Mark said the right thing as well. I think there's a bit of how the season unfolded. We ended badly, so of course your mood's going to be lower, we often end badly under Marco. I think there was some fatigue and injuries involved in that with certain players. I think, and also I think we had a hard run at the end of the season too. We had some tough fixtures. Managed to win a couple of those, like Liverpool out of nowhere, but there was some tough fixtures in there. Bournemouth away, Arsenal away, Chelsea at home, Man City at home. I think even Brentford away too. Some really hard fixtures at the end of the season too. So I think it was just like a combination of things that ended there. And yeah, we could have done better, but I don't think we're a top 7 team at the moment, and I don't think there's much between the rest, between 8th and 11th. So, as I said, I'm just going to take some perspective on it, and I think, you know, a few years ago I was praying for them to be a top 10, you know, or a mid-table Premier League team and not have the threat of relegation hanging over us. And yeah, it's pretty. I'm pretty pleased that's where we are, and we had a good cup run this year. We got knocked out by the team that went on to win it, which was disappointing, but we did well to get to where we got to. So overall, I'm pretty satisfied. But yeah, no, I hear the arguments. I guess I think recent times hasn't helped the negative feeling around the end of the season.
Yeah, and I think, you know, Skibby raised some great points, which I absolutely agree with. That there were some easy fixes, but I also think in recent memory we've had the worst luck with injuries, and that really, you know, I wasn't aware of this until it came out, but you know, Castagna was playing through an injury. Robinson had an injury. Nelson was out. We had Traore out for a few games. These things add up, right? I'm not saying Traore being out for 3 games ruined the season, but I would definitely argue that Robinson and Castagna playing, you know, 2-3 months through injuries, that has got to have lost us points, right? So other seasons, I think we've been quite fortunate. We've probably just had 1 or 2 injuries to relatively, you know, maybe bench players, but this season seemed to hit us pretty hard. I don't know if it's a fatigue. I don't know if it's bad luck. I don't know if it's nutrition or whatever, but hopefully we don't have that next season, because, you know, we do play with a pretty thin squad, and we lose 1 or 2 good players and we start looking quite vulnerable.
Yeah. Okay, well, as I say, we've got the season review coming up on Sunday. So we'll be going through in a bit more detail what we've just been talking about. So that's something to look forward to and tune in for on the weekend. And yeah, as always, if you want links to all of our social medias, you want to get on Discord, start asking us some questions in the group. I don't know what that was. I started vibing there, but yeah, you can get involved by following the links in our subscriptions. We actually got really good turnout tonight, which are really pleasing. Thank you to everyone who logged in and watched us live. And yeah, we are looking forward to some more shows throughout the summer. Skibby, thanks for joining.
No, thank you very much. It's been good fun. This is the last After Dark, isn't it? Of the
Probably.
summer.
Well, I mean, we'll do a few, but probably more random.
We can do some more, but this is like the last After Dark of the official season. So that's it's been nice to be a part of. It's been a good show. So long may it continue next season. But no, it's been good.
Awesome. And thanks, Mark.
Always a pleasure. It's going to be ad hoc dark going forward, so we'll see what we can do. But always fun chatting with you guys.
Awesome. And thanks to everyone for joining, logging in tonight live, and some of the questions we had in the comments. And yeah, we look forward to the season review on Sunday. So thanks everyone for tuning in. And Skibby, do you want to do the see us out with a Mary style U Whites?
Oh well, if you set me up with if you go with we'll practice. Right, everybody, stop listening for a second. You go with the normal Jack, and as always, come on, you Whites, and then I'll come in strong. Okay.
All right. Thanks for everyone.
Listen again.
Yeah. Okay. And thanks for everyone. And as always,
come on, you Whites.
Perfect.
It's almost like we planned it.